Hey, Huckster here. A friend of mine visited me over the weekend. Me and him's been friends since probably 1980. We met when I went to work for his dad. He took me out to lunch. We had a good time. He drives large vehicles, delivers them to buyers all across the United States. He just got back from Utah, went down to California. He delivered a truck out to Utah, and he went down to California and picked up another one, and he drags his little Jeep behind it. But he took something to Nashville, and then he had to pick something up Monday in Nashville, so he came down Saturday and visited his family, and he came to see me, and me and him was really good friends, and we can talk about a lot of things, no problem. But he got to talking about how bad things were getting, and how getting near the end times, and the Antichrist was to come, and things were fixing to really get bad, tribulation. And, you know, I've been talking with him for years about how I believe, and I think sometimes I really anger him, but it's all out of love, and we never part angry or anything. But every time, it seems like every time I turn the TV on, a preacher is either preaching about hell or the doom and gloom of how bad things are getting. If anything happens in the news, they point it to biblical prophecy, which may be similar to a few things that Jesus said when you see these things happening. But in Daniel chapter 9, starting in verse 24, it's talking about the 70 weeks. 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end to sins, of sin, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. And you know, there's a lot of people that want to give their belief of what that verse means, especially the part about to seal up vision and prophecy. A lot of people means that all the prophecies would come to their conclusion. Daniel was told that 70 weeks had been determined on his people, Israel, in the city of Jerusalem. And by the end of this prophetic time period, God punished them, and God promised that 6 things would be accomplished. One of the things that Daniel was told would happen by the end of that period, that God would seal up vision and prophecy. And if you've done much reading of the Bible, or much study, and you use commentaries and such as that, you know that very few Bible scholars agree on what this passage means. The Hebrew commentaries usually are in agreement on the meaning of seal up vision and prophecy. They say it means to give or reveal. It's the process of inspiration. But it's not just that, it also means to confirm by the fulfillment of the prophecy. Many highly respected Hebrew authorities state that seal up vision and prophecy means prophecy and prophets are sealed. Meaning the full realization of those prophecies ceases. And that no more prophets would appear anymore after that. Seal up vision and prophecy means an end, a complete fulfillment of all prophecy. To seal up vision and prophecy clearly means to give prophecy and to fulfill it. Daniel's prophecy tells us of the time when all prophecy would cease to be given, and what had been given would be fulfilled. And it tells us when this would be. Daniel's vision ends with the destruction of Jerusalem, and that occurred in the 1st century in 70 AD. If you compare Daniel 9 verse 24 through 27 with Matthew 24:15, where Jesus said that the abomination of desolation and his coming would occur in his generation. Daniel 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome time. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. Who is the prince who is to come? In verse 26, some say it's the beast or the Roman army and all, but the coming prince in verse 26 carries us right back to verse 25, Messiah the Prince, who was cut off. Christ becomes the one and only prince in this whole context. The people of the prince speaks of the Jewish people there in Jerusalem, who were the ones responsible for the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in that 1st century. In Daniel 9:27, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of the abomination shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. In the middle of the 70th week comes the abomination that makes desolate. When this happened, prophecy ceased. That's when your Bible ended. Revelation speaks of this. Nothing else was written after that. No more prophecy. And we know from Jesus when this happened. Matthew 24:15 and 16. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. The abomination of desolation is referring to the Roman army in the holy place, which was the city of Jerusalem. Matthew 24:21. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor shall ever be. Then, being when the Roman armies surrounded and laid siege to Jerusalem in that first century, there's no tribulation equal to what happened in AD 70, prior to it or since it. The Great Tribulation is over. It happened in AD 70. In Matthew 24:34, assuredly I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away until all these things take place. This generation, the generation that Jesus was speaking to, the generation that was listening to Jesus speak, would experience all that had been spoken of, including the Great Tribulation and His second coming. So Daniel tells us that his vision ends with the destruction of Jerusalem, which would bring an end to all the prophecy. And this is exactly what Luke tells us in Luke 21, verses 20 and forward. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart. And let not those who are in the country enter her. For these are the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. All prophecy was to cease and be fulfilled by the time Jerusalem was destroyed, which happened in AD 70. What Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13 is prophecy will end when the perfect comes. This is what Daniel said hundreds of years earlier. Prophecy will cease at the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, when the Lord returns with power and glory. And my friend is very troubled, it seems, at what's going on in the world, and he sees the negative. When I look at him, I see somebody that's prospering, somebody that's healthy and happy. He's got a nice family, he's got a nice job, and nobody's out to hurt him. He's not out to hurt anybody. Me and him can speak our beliefs freely. He tells me I mess with his theology, and I'm glad I do. It's just like my neighbor, who is a Mormon, and him's been having conversations for years, and I'm putting a big notch in his belief system, and I'm glad. And I'm not saying that I got it all and I know it all, but there's a lot of things that just common sense and what you read tells you cannot be true. The doom and gloom and hell are all fables. Peace, love, justice, understanding, music,